7:14. I want to welcome to the telephone line Judge Dan Kemp. Your Honor, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dale. Appreciate you inviting me back.
Oh, good to have you, sir. Good to have you. We have Benny Speaks at mic 4 and Bob Zdora again at mic number 2. And once again, let's just kind of recap Judge Dan Kemp running for Chief Justice, Arkansas Supreme Court. A little bit of bio, hometown family, Mountain View, Arkansas. I'll let you pick it up from there.
Right, Dale. I was born in Mountain View, Arkansas, raised there. My dad passed away whenever I was 12 years old, so my mother raised me as a single parent until I went to college. Went to college at the University of Arkansas. Graduated in '73. Went to law school there and graduated in '76. Got married to my wife, Susan, in 1973. And she got a degree in home ec. So we came home to Mountain View whenever I graduated law school. She got a teaching position at a little school about 20 miles outside of Mountain View at Fox, Arkansas, called Rural Special School. Yeah. And I hung out a shingle, started practicing law. And after a year there, the municipal judge left, and the governor appointed me as a municipal judge for Mountain View and for Stone County. So I practiced law for 10 years, 9 of which I served as municipal judge because it's a part-time position. It's now the position of district judge. And then in 1986, I ran for circuit judge in the 16th district, which is comprised of 5 counties. It's Independence, Cleburne, Stone, Izard, and Fulton counties. And I got elected in 1986, and I've been elected now 7 times. I'm now serving my 7th term. Was reelected in 2014 to another 6-year term, and had opposition that first year, but since then I hadn't had opposition in running for re-election, so that was a blessing.
That's a good sign.
Yes, and my docket during that time, I've handled the criminal docket the entire 29 years that I've been circuit judge. For the first 16 years, I served and handled the civil docket, as well as criminal docket. And also a couple of years on a rotation, I've handled the domestic relations docket and probate docket, a little bit of juvenile for a short period of time. And for the past 12 years, I've served as a drug court judge in our district. We have 4 drug courts in our district. We started with Batesville in Independence County 12 years ago, and then 2 years later we added Heber Springs in Cleburne County. And then 2 years after that we had added Stone County, Mountain View, and then the most recent addition was both Izard and Fulton County, a combined 2-county drug court. So we've got the full 5 counties of the district covered now with drug courts. And then a year and a half ago, we also added a veterans treatment court to assist. And so we're kind of on the cutting edge there because we're in a rural area, and we're pretty far away as far as the treatment facilities for the VA. You know, they'd have to go to North Little Rock or Little Rock for treatment. You know, we got some CBOCs, one in Mountain Home, and then one in Searcy. So they can go there to get treatment as well. So we're trying to make it work so we can get the necessary treatment and services that these veterans deserve.
You're right. Your Honor, did you ever think that when you first started practicing law that drug abuse would be such a major factor in any campaign?
No, I sure didn't. Back whenever I graduated law school, I guess marijuana was kind of the drug of choice for the people that offended. And then it just seems like there was an explosion with methamphetamine. And, you know, it's all over the country.
I mean, when I was in grade school, if you got caught with a pack of Wrigley's chewing gum, that was, oh my goodness, you know, that was a swat on the rear end for that. You know,
and you know that's over, right? That's over. Yeah, that's over.
Yeah, but now you're telling how old you are, Judge. I'm Benny Speaks. I've met you and spoke with you and your lovely wife a couple of times, but
yeah, Benny, good morning.
Good morning to you. I appreciate you very much, and I appreciate what you just finished saying because it tells me that you've got far more bench experience than your opponent has even got lawyer and judge experience combined, and I think that's a great attribute to you. And
thank you.
In all courts.
Yeah, and it's that Supreme Court Chief Justice is an important slot, and I am very proud that you're running for that, Judge, and certainly I support you and do all I can for you.
Well, I appreciate that, Benny. And like you say, I think it is important to have that on-the-bench experience because when you think about circuit court, a lot of people think about, well, just jury trials. And that's where you have your right to a jury trial, true. But probably 95, if not 98% of the cases are resolved without a jury trial.
Yes.
People waive their right to a jury trial, and the judge has to decide the case. There's also a lot of motions that are filed, have to be evidentiary rulings, and sometimes those rulings may result in cases being resolved by settlement before it even gets to a trial.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what's really impressive to me is the fact that you've been a judge in district court, circuit court, and
even
all the way up. And you've got experience from the bottom to the top, and I just think, the old saying around Mountain View, Arkansas, and is that cream comes to the top. And I just think in this case, Judge, that is the case.
And I appreciate that. And also, let me mention this, Benny, for the last 9 years, I've served as the administrative judge for our district.
Yeah.
The judges in our district have voted me as administrative judge. So I've handled the administrative.
What does that mean, Your Honor? What does that mean?
Well, the Supreme Court established after Amendment 80 took effect that each judicial district that had multiple judges would have an administrative judge that would deal with the Supreme Court and with the administrative office of the courts in administrative matters. They'd be the liaison with the Supreme Court on the orders that are affecting the circuit judges in the districts. And so you have to establish an administrative plan. Each judicial district has to now submit an administrative plan to the Supreme Court for their approval to establish which judges are going to be hearing what type cases, criminal, civil, domestic relations, probate, juvenile, and that has to be approved by the Supreme Court. So the administrative judge kind of handles those administrative matters within the particular judicial district. The judges decide what they want to submit, and then the administrative judge submits the plan, hopefully with the getting the approval of the Supreme Court.
That's a real asset to being Chief Justice.
Yeah,
well, there's a lot of administrative duties that the Chief Justice does.
Exactly.
Chief Justice heads the administrative office of the courts, which assists in all the courts of the state.
Sure.
And you have to deal with the legislature as far as presenting a budget. And you're kind of the spokesman for the judicial department with the legislative and the executive branches. So there are a lot of administrative duties that the Chief Justice does,
exactly,
as well as just deciding cases.
That's all that experience is. That's where all that experience is going to be wonderful, Judge.
Yeah. And I think it's important that people remember a couple of things with the election. The importance of having good conservative family members on the bench, the importance of them making these decisions, and whether they get appealed above and beyond the Supreme Court is one thing, but to make the law for the state of Arkansas, which is what we're all primarily concerned about as citizens of Arkansas, is very, very important. And people need to turn out and vote during the primary, whether you start early on the 16th or up to March 1st, and get out there and vote and work your way down the ballot and find these judges. We've got 4 judges elections in our area here. I can speak for Baxter and Marion County, and the importance of working your way down there. You can't say I didn't know. If you can hear my voice, you're going to hear the 4 choices that the Republican Party of Baxter County and Marion County are in favor. We can't endorse people in the same respect. These are allegedly nonpartisan, which is a whole other deal. But please work your way down the ballot and vote, vote, vote.
That's true because although this is on a primary day for the Republican,
this is your general.
Democratic, this is our general election for the judges.
Right. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican.
That's true. It's a nonpartisan election. It's at the bottom of each of the Republican and Democratic ballots, or people could ask for a separate judicial ballot, but they wouldn't be voting in either the Republican or Democratic primary if they did that. But it is at the bottom of each of those ballots. So don't forget to go to the very bottom there if you want to get to the judicial elections and vote for the Supreme Court and also any district judge races that may be in different areas.
We're going to do all we can do to educate on that, Judge. And
Good.
It's,
Good.
You know, I think people really need to be reminded, as Bob just said, that March the 1st is the election. That's your general election, and folks out there, get ready to vote. And early voting starts on the 16th, and
Right.
we just need to get it done on these judge races because this is it.
And it's name recognition. Judge Kemp for the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is what you want to remember. You want to remember Judge Kemp, you want to remember Judge Womack, Judge Bland, and Judge Duffy when you're working your way down those ballots.
Good stuff. Thank you, Bob.
Your Honor, we got about 3 minutes and 30 seconds before we take the news break, and I want you to explain why this is important to everyday people, because I've never been before the Supreme Court. I was privileged to be invited by Justice Wood to the swearing in last year, and that's the first time I've even been in the building. But how does the court work for the people of Arkansas?
Well, the Supreme Court is the court of final decision for the state of Arkansas. It's the highest appellate court in Arkansas. There is the Arkansas Court of Appeals that hears workers' compensation cases, probably the great majority of the criminal cases, and also many civil and domestic relations cases as well. But if there is a case that goes to the Court of Appeals that the party, of course, doesn't agree with the decision, they could petition the Supreme Court to hear it. There are certain cases that they'll hear on that petition for hearing, but primarily the Arkansas Supreme Court is going to be hearing capital cases that have a right to appeal, the cases where there's a challenge to a statute on constitutional grounds, or cases that may be referred for by the federal courts on a determination of a definition of a statute and a determination. But it is the court that's going to make the final decision on cases under Arkansas law and the Arkansas Constitution. And
can anything in the Arkansas Supreme Court be appealed up to the federal court? And what's that process? Minute and a half, sir.
They could be if it involves a federal court issue or an issue that may be involved in the United States Constitution.
Right.
If it's just going to strictly deal with a matter of the Arkansas Constitution, then it may not. It may not be.
Isn't Roe versus Wade an example? Didn't it start at the Missouri Supreme Court and make its way all the way to the federal?
Right, because that dealt with U.S. constitutional issues. Yes, that they heard. So, but usually, any decision of the Arkansas Supreme Court is going to be the final decision. And the 7 justices that are on the Supreme Court, a 4-3 decision is going to be a final decision, just like a 7-0 decision.
And the importance of that, the importance of having good conservative thinkers on that court, that affects your day-to-day life. People think elections don't mean anything, it's all fixed, it's all this and that. Barack Obama's been elected twice because elections have consequences, because people didn't show up to vote. These judges have an effect on our day-to-day life. Yep. It's very important that we realize that.
Yep. Your Honor, we're down about 15 seconds. We're going to pause here for the news break. We've got Bob Zdora in the studio. Benny Speaks is here. We're visiting with Judge Dan Kemp, who's a candidate for Chief Justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court. Early voting starts February 16th, and the primary on March 1st. Your Honor, if you can stay on the line, we'll be back about 7:35, and we'll continue for 10 more minutes after the news break.
Okay, sounds good, Dale. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll be right back. 7:35, we're continuing our discussion with Judge Dan Kemp, who is a candidate for Chief Justice, Arkansas Supreme Court. Your Honor, welcome back.
Thank you.
And, gentlemen, Bob, you're...
We were looking, excuse me, I was going over your bio here at judgekemp.com, and you've been the drug court judge for the past 12 years, and I'm kind of a proponent of drug courts being able to find these kids, especially kids, first time out, second time maybe, some sort of treatment program instead of locking them up. I think we got a lot of people that end up in jail that probably don't need to be in jail. They probably need to be someplace else. Not that they may not end up in jail in the future, but at least the first time around, and maybe you could explain that to people a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We've got a choice that needs to be made on how we're going to deal with people that have drug addictions. Thankfully, drug courts have been established in Arkansas, which gives nonviolent offenders. We're talking about nonviolent offenders because if you have some violence in your background, or if you have sexual offense in your background, you're not going to be qualified for drug court. But the nonviolent offenders that have drug addiction problems should have an opportunity to participate in the drug court program to give them an opportunity to stay out of prison. And like I tell people that come into drug court, the most important thing I'm looking for is honesty, that they're going to be honest with everybody they're dealing with, starting with themselves and admitting they've got a drug problem. And then honest with everybody they're dealing with as far as the probation officer, the drug counselor, the drug court judge, because they see the drug court judge on a regular basis. We see them every 2 weeks, so we can see how they progress in the program. But I tell them they need to be honest, they need to show up, and they need to work hard.
Yep.
Because, they've got to show up. They've got, a lot of these people, really, they've never been accountable in their lives. So we try to provide a structure for them so that they will be accountable for their actions, responsible for themselves, for any family they've got, make sure they try to be employed or at least going to school and bettering themselves. And hopefully they're going to be providing for themselves and providing for their families so that they can be paying any restitution, any fines, and also working and providing for their families. Because, if they're in prison, then our tax dollars are providing for their support for the time they're in prison.
That's right.
And we just don't need to be locking up these nonviolent offenders and packing our prisons and jails with them and letting the violent ones out early. And, we're going to have a choice, and the legislature, I know, is looking at that. Are you going to build more prisons, which is going to cost tens of possibly $100 million or more, or are you going to have some treatment facilities for these nonviolent offenders, like they have at Osceola, Little Rock? I think they may have one up in the Fayetteville area now, possibly Pine Bluff for the women, but treatment facilities so that we can get drug treatment for people, because the people that don't really adhere to the rules here locally, sometimes I can sentence them for 90 days up to 270 days at one of these local treatment facilities throughout the state to get additional treatment, drug treatment, and then come back into the drug court program and hopefully successfully complete it.
Your Honor, I've got a quick question here. What's the constitutionality of the Supreme Court suggesting perhaps a faith-based, like the John 3:16 rehab at Batesville area? And I know that's a volunteer basis on their end.
Right. That's a great program. I allow people to go there sometimes whenever they're charged with offenses to go to that facility to get drug treatment. Now, it's my understanding that John 3:16 does not seek or receive state funding.
Exactly.
So therefore, they're not subject to any regulations that the state would impose upon a drug treatment facility that does receive state funds, and they don't want it that way. And I understand that, and I appreciate that since they're faith-based. But they're not approved for people that are on probation to attend John 3:16, since they're not state approved. It has to be a state approved program for probationers or parolees, or for people in drug court. So, occasionally I'll let somebody attend John 3:16 before they get admitted into drug court, and that gives them a head start, really, on drug court. Because usually they have a period of time that they're clean and sober, and have some treatment, which is faith-based. So
what I'm hearing is you're willing to work with that first offender to try to work through the issue rather than make life more miserable for that person being addicted. Am I hearing
right?
you?
If they're willing to improve their lives, make changes in their lives, because it's going to be some major changes. They've got to change the people, places, and the things they're involved with. And because a lot of times they come in being around people, other users, or other drug abusers, or drug people that have addictions, and they've got to get away from that. They've got to change that, and they've got to realize they've got to make those changes if they're going to be successful and live in a drug-free and sober lifestyle. So if they're willing to work at it, we're willing to help them.
In these programs, these are based on the law that the legislature has passed. So you're not making law. You're interpreting the law as it is written, and the importance of that.
That's
right.
Yeah, that's a big deal with me, Judge, is that I respect you, and but that is a major factor with me, is that the Supreme Court, especially the Supreme Court, they're not there to write the law, make the law there, and interpret the law and enforce the law as the law is written. But too much of the time, federal, state, in all the states, Supreme Courts, whether it's state or federal, they're in the business of what our legislators should be doing.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, because judges should decide the law and not make the law.
Exactly.
It's the legislative duty to decide what the policy of the state's going to be, and make law pursuant to that policy. So I guess I am a strong believer in the separation of powers.
I am too.
But then, in my opinion, it's the conservative people that look at what the judicial is supposed to do, and the liberals that do what they're not supposed to do, in my opinion.
Well, I know the judge can't he can't comment on that.
You just okay, let all the air out of his blood.
I'll let y'all comment on that.
Well, but that is a major factor, and I think that's a major breakdown in the society today, and where society as a whole looks at this without any confidence in them, because of the fact that they look at issues, and that's before the court, and then they're making decisions that's actually creating law instead of interpreting law. And that breaks down out here in the John Doe citizen. They lose confidence in the judicial system.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think the courts ought to be some type of super legislature.
No.
They just need to decide the cases that come before them.
Amen to that.
We're down to about a minute and a half before we have to suspend the call. We've just about exhausted our requested time, Your Honor. Your final thoughts, sir?
I would just urge people to get involved and to learn what this race is about. I know from campaigning across the state that the Supreme Court race is not a major concern for a lot of people. A lot of people don't even realize there's a position open on the Supreme Court.
That's sad.
It is.
I know it is, and like you say, these decisions that the Supreme Court makes can affect the lives of citizens throughout the state on a daily basis. They just need to realize that. But it is an important race, and hopefully they'll realize that they can start voting on this on February 16th in early voting. And March the 1st is the election day. And hopefully they would look at my background, my experience, my qualifications, and realize that I am the best choice for the position of Chief Justice. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity to serve in that position.
And just real quick, I know that you can't solicit funds, but your PAC, how would if somebody wanted to make a donation, how would they do that?
They can go to my website, judgekemp.com. There's some information there. The post office address for my campaign committee is P.O. Box 94197, North Little Rock, and the zip code there is 72190. And they can contact my committee and get information regarding my campaign and how they can volunteer or contribute.
Judge, it's wonderful. I appreciate so much having your voice up here in Baxter County, and I want to remind all those out there, listeners, this morning, who we have an opportunity here to elect a good conservative man, John Dan Kemp, to the Supreme Court Chief Justice. That's a position in which is very important. We have an opportunity for a conservative individual to guide the court and do the administrative work of the court. And, folks, it is very important.
Very important. Your
yeah,
Honor,
Bob and Benny, I appreciate visiting with you. Dale, thank you for having me.
Your Honor, thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a quick break. More right after this. 7:49. That was a good discussion with the judge.
Yes, it was.
We
Yes, you don't need those anymore, Ben. They can't hear the squeak, though, if he's got the headset on.
We don't need those anymore.
So,
Yeah.
he always wanted to be a pilot.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. I want to know what's going
But
on.
the importance of these judges is which is kind of the topic of the day here, and the four judges that are on the ballot, and the importance for people to turn out to vote. I mean, this is going to be a huge primary anyway, just because of the presidential election that's going on and the candidates at the top of the ticket. But you got to work your way down. There's JPs that affect our lives in day to day, and in the way that the funds are budgeted within Marion County, Baxter County, anybody within the sound of my voice in their county government.
Just a piece, Bob, is I've always said it's extremely important because they are the individuals that's closest to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Here, they're your closest elected official in wherever you live. Then, of course, it's up to your county offices, but it gets further away from the people all the time. Those JP races are very important because they are on the ground every day with the people that they live around.
Yep.
And it's important.
And there's a representative race that's going.
Yeah.
In Baxter and Marion County, and I think in Boone it goes up that way for District 99. There's a number of elections that are on there, and you've got some days. I would probably be out there early for the early voting, and because you never know what the weather's going to be the rest of February. There's no telling with that. And but the importance of these judges' races, to have good men and women sitting on the bench that make decisions that affect our everyday life, and the background that they carry. I mean, looking into Sean Womack, who's been a servant of this community for years and years and years, as opposed to being a trial lawyer who's just worked in that part of the law trying to make money for himself and for his clients. There's a big difference. So when you're sitting on the bench, that comes back into your mind as you're trying to go through the cases that are presented to you. As a judge. And I'm not speaking for Sean. I'm not. But it's just the idea of the background of somebody's claim.
Yeah. And see, with Judge Womack, he's also been in the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Right.
He was there when some of these laws were actually written.
Yeah.
He's a very astute young man, middle-aged man now, but he has good credentials, solid credentials, and just impeccable as are.
We were going to mention Judge Cody Highland, who's running for the...
Cody Highland. Cody Highland is running for District 2 Court of Appeals. He lives in Conway, as does his opponent, Mr. Murphy. That's a District 2, covers 18 counties. It's a large county from Conway north all the way up to Walnut Ridge and across over to over 18 counties. It's a big deal.
Yeah, you see
but
those
I'll tell you,
down.
Cody Highland has a solid background of being a very conservative man. And for the listeners in Baxter and Marion County, Cody Highland's been a lifelong Republican. Before prosecuting attorney, he is the prosecuting attorney now of Faulkner County, but before they become nonpartisan, Cody ran as a Republican in Faulkner County for prosecuting attorney and won. And so his background is conservative Republican. His opponent is a lifelong Democrat, never voted in a Republican primary. So that tells me, and the importance of that to me is the fact that tells me some of the character the personal values of these two candidates, and I think that is the big difference in these two candidates. And I strongly recommend Cody Highland for that Court of Appeals District 2.
And you got one left then there, Benny. Why don't you?
And I've got.
Out of time.
And pardon?
Okay,
we're running short. I want to touch a bit on this Supreme Court justice race. We just got through listening to Judge Kemp speak. His opponent, I can tell you, Courtney Goodson. Courtney Goodson has a long record. It's not so good. She was first married to Mr. Henry, and when she ran for Supreme Court, her current husband, Mr. Goodson, was attorney out of Texarkana, put $420,000 into her campaign. And then after she won that, she divorced Mr. Henry and married Mr. Goodson. Consequently, Mr. Goodson is a class action attorney he is the chief class action attorney for this part of the United States. And consequently, after she was on the court, his law firm has won 8 of the 10 cases that's come before the court. Courtney Goodson has a lot of baggage behind her, folks, and Judge John Kemp is head and shoulders above anything that she wants to present. Baxter Marion County District Court, very important race here.
Minute and a half.
Very important race here. Judge Jason Duffy, and I say that Judge Jason Duffy is the current judge over there, and he is running for this district court against Mark Cooper of Mountain Home. Same situation with those. I know Judge Duffy real well. He is a solid conservative Republican. His family has been all of his life, and I do know that Mark Cooper has never voted in a Republican primary. He's been a lifelong Democrat, and what can I say? He's just a president or chairman of the Baxter County Republican Committee. So that tells me a lot about him.
Wow.
What a nice day. Sun's out. It's going to warm up a little bit.
I appreciate you, Dale, and appreciate this radio station that gives a voice to the conservative people. Well, it gives an even voice for all of them, but primarily I just appreciate you very much for this station and what you all do.
Yep,
Bob,
glad to do it.
Responsible conservative radio.
Bob Zdora,
yes,
Century
sir.
21, a good man. Baxter County was a loss for us when he moved over into the Marion County. Bob, it's always good to see you.
I appreciate that, Benny. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, let's see. Bob will be here tomorrow. Jerry's going to be sitting in my seat. I've got to be absent tomorrow. I have to attend a funeral tomorrow, so I'm going to take off. So it'll be in the capable.
Listen in, boy. There's no telling what's going to happen. The last one was just a barrel of monkeys. So this will be worth the price of admission for tomorrow.
I will see everybody on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Remember, early voting starts the 16th.
16.
The primaries March the 1st.
See you on Monday.